To Kill a Mockingbird in Real Life by Jillian Goldberg and Sterling Moore. Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, was born on April 28, 1926, in Monroeville, Alabama. She grew up during the Great Depression, a time of racial and social prejudice. In 1960, Harper Lee published To Kill a Mockingbird, which in many ways reflected her own life growing up. She paralleled the people in her life with those of her characters, including Jean Louise Scout Finch, who was based on Harper Lee herself, as well as the characters Atticus Finch and Dill.
Scout Finch and Harper Lee were both the youngest in their families, with Lee being the youngest out of 4 children and Scout the youngest out of 2. They both had a love for literature, even though Scout felt ashamed to admit it because of social norms in schools. In the book, Scout is also shown as a tough tomboy who is able to stand her ground with any of the other kids in town. She tended to use her fists instead of words when offended or insulted. This description is identical to that of Harper Lee, who would stand up for her good friend Truman Capote when the other kids picked on him.
Sadly, another comparison the two of them shared was the fact that their mothers didn't really exist in their lives. Scout's mother died when Jem was 6 and Scout was only 2. Harper's mother was mentally ill and rarely left her bedroom. Because of this, she played a small role in Harper's life. Because Jem was 6 at the time, he mourned her much more than Scout ever did. In comparison, Scout only had a vague memory of her and seemed to almost not remember or miss her mother at all.
But Harper and Scout were not the only ones whose mothers played small roles in their lives. Their good friends Truman Capote and Dill also lacked motherly love. The character Dill was based on Harper's friend Truman Capote. Dill's character was known for his large childlike imagination, which is thought to be inspired from the success of Truman Capote as an American writer. As a child, Capote was abandoned by his parents and lived next door to Lee with his relatives growing up. This parallels closely with Dill, as he was also neglected from his parents at a young age and was sent to live with his relatives next door to Scout.
Another parallel between Lee and Scout's childhoods were their hometowns they grew up in. Macomb County was written based on Monroeville, Alabama. Both of these towns, located in Alabama, depicted a small-town country lifestyle in the 1930s. Both towns suffered through the Great Depression when there was very little money and harsh racial and social prejudice.
Harper's father was a lawyer from Monroeville, just as Atticus was the lawyer of Macomb. Harper's father's unsuccessful defense of a black man and his son, who were accused of murder, was the beginning inspiration for Tom Robinson's trial, and how Atticus failed to successfully defend Tom Robinson.
The other inspiration from her lifetime was the Scottsboro case. The Scottsboro case was a one-day unfair trial in which 9 teenage black boys between the ages 12 to 17 were accused and found guilty for raping 2 white women. The boys were convicted by an all-white jury, and 8 of the 9 boys were sentenced to death by the electric chair, while the youngest received a lifelong sentence in an Alabama prison.
The first piece of evidence was the fact that majority of the boys weren't even in the same train cart as the women who accused them of rape. The second piece of evidence was that the doctor who examined the 2 women found no evidence of rape or of someone harming them on either of the women. And then, as the evidence began to prove the boys were innocent, one of the women stepped forward and confessed that the boys did not rape them, and that they were only trying to protect themselves from their own legal offense and social wrong.
But this case was sent to to the Supreme Court and was demanded a retrial with more fair attributes. So this time, the Scottsboro boys were given better lawyers who found several pieces of evidence proving their innocence.
It took 18 years for all 9 of the boys to be proven innocent, but 18 years later, the boys were no longer the same boys that entered the Alabama prison 18 years ago. Those men had been changed from living a harsh life in prison for so long, and especially in an Alabama prison back then. Harper Lee created comparisons not only between herself and Scout Finch, but also between the Scottsboro case, Lee's father's case, and Tom Robinson's trial.
This case can be seen clearly in Tom Robinson's trial. Tom Robinson was also accused of raping a white woman and also was found guilty by an all-white jury, even though the evidence didn't add up. In the end, he was sentenced to death for a crime he didn't commit, just like the Scottsboro boys. Both of these cases were caused by a white woman's own mistake, and both in the real world and in fiction, the words of a dishonest white woman outweighed the words of a truthful black man.
Because of all the parallels made by Harper Lee and her life, she was able to bring To Kill a Mockingbird alive. To Kill a Mockingbird.
In real life.
The end. Thanks for watching.